Cage Minds, Micah Frankel. We're down in Tampa, Florida, and bare knuckle fighting championships is one of the fastest growing sports in the world. One of the most prominent teams that's ascending in this world is the Shift Combat Club. Shift started as MMA, is now taken over the bare knuckle world, and Jahaad Wingfield, the head man here, one of a three-headed monster of coaches, has been lucky enough to give us some of the time. Sir, thank you so much for welcoming us into your facility, and I want to know first off, why combat sports? What has gotten you attracted to this genre of athleticism?
Well, me personally, I grew up with a boxing background. I started maybe training when I was 4 years old. Started competing at, I believe, 9 years old, and competed up until I was probably 19. And I held a lot of state, regional titles, national and world ranking. So just something that I had always done all my life, and just came full circle, got back in it.
I had seen that I believe there was a professional record, something like 13 fights.
There was, but I had already been told that I wouldn't be able to fight anymore. So I kind of, most of those fights, if you look at them, you'll see guys that I trained were on the cards as well. And I kind of used that as leverage. I would take on guys and just basically kind of throw fights, make it look good for a while, and kind of take a dive.
So was going into coaching more, was that always like a thought to you, or was just being an athlete the thought to you? Like, how did we get from the fighter to the coach?
It was never a thought for me. I never had any desire to coach. My nephew actually asked me if I would start working out with him at the gym with lifting weights. He wanted to put on some weight. And I knew a boxing gym that had a weight room in the back. So I said, let's go up here. So when I went up front to talk to the owner, let him know we'd be coming back there, I came out from talking with him, and my nephew was on the back, and I was like, you're doing that all wrong. So I showed him how to stand and those things, and one thing led to another, and yeah, I just kind of got caught up in it and stayed with it.
So you got caught up in that whirlwind. How does that develop into Shift?
So I was actually just training boxing for a while, and at that time I was working with an NFL training camp with Jimmy Smith, Jaguars legend, wide receiver, and I was working with a lot of NFL players, and one day he said, hey, I want to do a commercial. So we had a crew in to do the commercial, and they said, hey, can we find a gym around here? And I said, yeah, we can do that. And we looked up not many gyms in Mississippi, in that area of Mississippi. We wound up going to Pearl, Mississippi. And I'm in there, I'm hitting the speed bag, I'm hitting the bags, I'm jump roping. And the director came over, he said, hey, you think we can get some sparring footage? And I told him, I said, yeah, certainly. I don't know if they have anybody sparring. And he's like, no, of you. I'm like, me? So they had a kid who had never lost in the state, never lost in the region. He was ranked in the world. And I said, yeah, I'll give him a couple rounds. And while I was in there, now granted I was much younger, but while I was in there, I was able to do what I want when I wanted. And at times I would commentate things I was going to do. He couldn't stop it. I got out of the ring, and Martin Brown came to me. He said, hey, man, where'd you learn that shit at? And I'm like, what you mean? And he like, that, man, you ain't learned that around here. So I told him, I said, no, I'm a trainer. And told him I work with fighters, and my gym was in Tampa. He told me, he's like, man, can you teach me that? I said, yeah, I mean, if you can get to Tampa, I can teach you boxing in its fullest capacity. So I believe he wound up taking a fight, an MMA fight, and he lost. But he took the fight to get the money to get to Tampa. He moved down to Tampa. I believe he was 1 win, 2 losses. I thought he was crazy because he came down here without anything, literally just his car, his dog, and his clothes. And he said, I need you to help me find somewhere to live, a job. And I'm like, what the hell? He said, you told me if I get here, you got the rest. And I'm like, I never told you that. But I started training him, and I was just a boxing coach, but told him I can teach you boxing in its fullest capacity. Don't worry about the wrestling. They're big movements. We'll keep the distance, walk guys into things. And I think we rallied off maybe 13, 14 consecutive wins. A lot of knockouts along the way. And, yeah, he was winning, knocking people out, and more guys started coming. So that's Dave Mundell. He was an amateur at the time. He started coming to get some striking, and just a lot of the MMA guys, to where I had more MMA guys in the gym than boxers. So I was always at MMA shows because we had a bunch of promotions. So that's how we changed to Shift MMA.
So we got Shift MMA, and then at some point, I've heard it, there's a couple different stories out there. Kevin Smith's involved. I've heard there's a couple other people, but at some point, bare knuckle pops up on the radar. What was your initial reaction to, from a boxing guy, from them coming at you? Do you have anybody to do bare knuckle?
I actually had a buddy call me, Will Hunter, and he say, hey, Jahaad, he say, man, they're going to be bringing bare knuckle down there, man. This shit is going to blow. You got some guys you want to put on there? I say, hell no. Bare knuckle? I say, that's the stupidest shit I ever heard. And he was like, I'm telling you, man, your guys can blow in this. He like Dave and all those guys because they can really fight. I'm like, hell no, man, I don't have any interest. He like, Jahaad, I'm telling you, do it. And wound up getting Dave on a card, and I thought it'll just be a one and done. And when I went out there, I saw some of the talent level, and I saw some of the guys that were kind of lauded and people thought were really good, and I was like, my guys will stop all of them. Yeah, my whole team was out there. We had a nice crowd, and once the guys saw some of the talent that was there, they were like, man, we'll take this over. And that's what we did.
Specifically, when you go to bare knuckle, start to get some notoriety because I don't know many coaches that, dress to the nines. We're talking about the suit. We're talking about the look, the influence. I want to know, where did that idea come from to present yourself in that? It looks like you're going into a board presentation rather than about to, put on the latex gloves and clean up blood.
So that actually happened because while I was coaching, there would be fights on Fridays. And I remember one of Trey's early fights, Martin Brown. I left work and I went to the fight, and I was in my work clothes. And at work, I'm always in shirt and tie and slacks, dress shoes. And, a lot of people started complimenting me on it. He was like, Coach, he's like, I think you ought to stick with it. I was like, hell no, that's crazy. But when I got back to the gym, all the guys were like, you dressed up for Trey's fight. You got to dress up for mine. And it just kind of stuck.
How much does that team management building professional background that you have help in not just dealing with fighters, but in what you built here with Shift?
It helps a ton, man. We really are like a family in here. We hang out with each other. Our kids know each other. Our wives know each other. So everybody here is looking to catapult each other and help each other get better and become better. And there's no jealousy, no envy. None of those things exist in here. I mean, they really want for their brother what they want for themselves, and that's why our success has been what it is.
And the success has been great. The sport is, as it's blowing up, it's still very much in the infant stages, and you guys have already created a legacy. What does that mean to you in this relatively short time to already be boasting 2 world champions, countless that are ready to be title challengers, a recent main eventer? The successes have been plenty.
It means a lot, but for us, man, we just keep growing. We want to be better than we were yesterday. So all people remember is your last one. We have created a culture of winning. So when we get some of the newer guys in here, they approach things differently. Like I've never wanted those who have reached out to me and say, hey, I want to say that I was a part of BKFC. I want to be able to say that. I want to fight with BKFC. I want to get into BKFC. That mindset just has never appealed to me. In fact, we've sent those guys to other gyms that can help them. But we want guys who want to be champions. We want guys who are going to put in the work, put in the time, put in the effort to become champions. We want students of the game, and that's what we've been able to get.
I was listening. I saw it on your IG page from BKFC Reddit that he was talking to Sean Wheelock, and Sean compared your guys' gym to kind of having the dominance of the old Shuto box era. So I had asked one time, a long time ago, when I met Rafael Cordero, I was like, what is the key to being able to take so many different styles, so many different fighters and personalities, and raise them to championship level? So I want to hear your thoughts.
For me, most of my guys fight to their personalities. Everybody has different sizes, different attributes, and just different strengths. And we try to hone in on those strengths. But we also, like everybody talks about our coaching staff, you're never in a one-on-one with our guys. It's always a 4-on-1. So when we put together game plans and things, we don't watch the fights together. We all watch the fights separately. We all come up with different notes, and we find those bad habits and deficiencies, and we push you to them and win.
So it's a real molding of the minds. You each take your own individual information and then formulate a plan together?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So the reason we don't watch the fights together is because I don't want to tell any of my other coaches what to see. I don't want them to tell me what to see. So most of the time we see a lot of the same things, and when we see those things, we know that those are the things that we need to focus on, and that's how we kind of put together. We never really train for a particular fighter, but we will find where his deficiencies are, and once we find where those deficiencies are, we push him towards those deficiencies, and we use them to beat him.
That takes me on to another thing I heard, that you guys have been able, obviously with Jared, with Dave, you've taken these fighters and exemplified some of their best attributes. And I heard some of that was just taking what they have and adding the shift philosophy. I don't know if you want to share too much of the secret sauce, but what is some of that philosophy?
So I fought at a really high level when I did compete. And one of the things that I learned, you didn't have to be able to do everything, but you had to be able to deal with everything. Every gift can be a curse, and everything can be neutralized. And we know how to neutralize some of guys' best attributes. So we don't worry about speed. We don't worry about power, footwork, or any of those things. If those things are a strength of his, we'll neutralize them, take them away from him, and, again, push him towards his deficiencies and win there.
And then just a couple quick ones. Why is Dave Mundell and should be recognized the pound-for-pound top fighter in the sport?
There is nothing that Dave Mundell can't deal with and nothing that he can't neutralize. Honestly, there's nobody at 85 that'll beat Dave, and I don't think there's anybody at 205 that stands a chance either. I think he stops them all.
And the last one, why should Brendan Allen be next for that featherweight title opportunity?
Nobody in the division has done what Brendan Allen has done. I mean, he's the most ducked. He's the most feared in the division. Everybody else in the division, if they fight against Brendan, they need to be perfect for 5 rounds. Brendan Allen has a different type of power, and he only needs to be perfect for 1 second.
The gym is called Shift, and every time they downshift, it seems like it's just to accelerate one more time. Coach, I appreciate you letting me come in here, talk to everybody.
Yes, sir, man. It's been my pleasure. Appreciate it.